Our story starts at a class awakening ceremony in the year 2624. The first awakening is a life-changing event that shapes a person's future. The academy headmaster warns everyone not to change their class right away if they awaken to combat classes. Summoners and engineers require a lot of resources, something most people can't afford easily. Everyone's buzzing, eager to find out what class they'll get. Here's a bit of history. Years ago, a virtual reality game called Eternal took the world by storm. Because of a brand new experience and extreme euphoria from killing that allows people to lose themselves in the game, more and more people entered Eternal. One day, the world's surface expanded by thousands of times, with countless secret realm maps appearing. And suddenly, monsters and other races poured out. Eternal fused with the real world. Everyone could now level up and change their classes to increase their power and, of course, fight back against monsters. Our protagonist, Paul White, transmigrated into this world 1 year ago. His mother passed away when he was too young to remember. His sister Cindy, however, is now battling a strange illness that regular doctors can't cure. Paul's been scraping by, keeping her alive with the help of low-level priests. He had to sell his family home and rely on relatives for help. But it's only a temporary solution. If the cause of Cindy's illness isn't found, she'll stay on the edge of life and death. Medical expenses are climbing fast, and Paul's part-time jobs barely cover them. He must awaken a combat class to earn enough to get Cindy to a higher-level priest. The class awakening ceremony begins. A level 24 mage tells students whose numbers are called to step into the magic circle, one at a time. As the mage activates the circle, everyone around can't help but gasp at the power radiating from it. Some students whisper about how lucrative it must be to be a mage hosting the ceremony. The job likely brings in a six-figure income. Mr. Smith, who is a fifth-class homeroom teacher, calls on a student named Mike, announcing his turn. Mike raises his hand and steps up to the magic circle, officially kicking off the ceremony. Thousands of possible classes await. But in the class awakening ceremony, only 3 types of classes will appear. In a world overrun by monsters, combat classes are the most revered. Life-type classes, on the other hand, have the lowest status. Unfortunately, Mike doesn't get a single combat class. Previous year's statistics show that about half of the students should awaken to combat classes. Among them, enchanters have the highest potential. Finally, Mr. Smith calls Paul's name. People are whispering, saying the class representative has great stats in academics, so he'll likely get an impressive class. Mr. Bell, who is the 6th class homeroom teacher, tells that only 16 his students awaken combat classes. Another teacher chuckles, saying his class already has 21 students with combat classes, including a rare one. But they instantly stop talking as they notice that Paul isn't moving for some reason. Then, out of nowhere, Paul's necklace begins to glow, radiating power and light as a system activates. The strongest class support system kicks in, offering him a rookie starter gift and the S+ grade talent, Protection of the Sacred Angel. The system asks if Paul wants to accept the gift. He rubs his eyes in disbelief, but quickly realizes it's real. He bought this necklace in his previous life from a street vendor, and it's been with him since his transmigration. He had suspected it might be valuable, but after a few tests, nothing had happened. So he gave up on the idea. But now the system has activated, giving him a huge advantage right when he needs it most. In this world, talents range from F to S grade, with higher grades offering better effects. Most importantly, the 3 classes that appear during the awakening ceremony are closely linked to a person's talents. Teachers and students are confused as to why Paul seems zoned out, with some even assuming he failed to awaken a class. Suddenly, a golden ray of light beams down from the sky onto the circle. All the priests and mages recognize it as a talent awakening phenomenon. A beautiful sacred angel descends from the sky with light embodying Paul's faith and power source. With this belief, the sacred light will forever protect him and banish evil. The angel will always be by his side, marking him with a special golden seal on his forehead. 3 unique classes, ones no one has ever seen before, appear before Paul. People around him are in awe and jealousy, wondering what classes these could be. It turns out that these are hidden classes: Mage of Light, Sacred Priest, and Saint Knight. Paul now has a life-altering choice to make. Mage of Light is a pure DPS class. It has powerful attacks but lacks defense skills, making it vulnerable in a world full of dangerous creatures. Priests have plenty of life-saving abilities and the unique power of resurrection, but they lack combat strength and rely heavily on allies. The Saint Knight is a balanced class with a well-rounded skill set, capable of offense, defense, and support. Though it doesn't specialize in any one area, Paul's talent for light affinity makes the Saint Knight the perfect fit, so the choice is made. The knight raises a hammer and speaks words like humility, honesty, bravery, empathy, and responsibility. From this moment, these virtues become Paul's guide to pursue justice and live honorably. And with this transformative awakening, the system congratulates him on achieving the Saint Knight class. Right after this, Paul becomes an instant star. Most of the students want to team up with him, but suddenly a teacher pushes everyone aside and approaches him. The teacher's face looks almost frantic. He tells Paul to go home, rest up, and come to the headmaster's office tomorrow. Not only have Paul's stats increased after awakening, but he also has unassigned stat points. Strength is his top priority, with Constitution next. Only with enough power can he take down monsters more efficiently. So he uses the unassigned stat points to boost these parameters. Paul feels energy boiling within him. It's an incredible feeling. Since this is his first time using stat points, the Saint Knight mission activates. It's that classic trope where the character completes missions to earn rewards. The prize is too good to pass up. A trial ground is randomly assigned to match Paul's level. The system warns him to take the trial seriously because dying there means dying in real life. The next thing Paul knows, he's inside a mine. He remembers learning in class that ancient tabby monsters mainly live in mines. While they aren't carnivorous, they'll become violent and bloodthirsty like other monsters when they spot a human. With low intelligence, these monsters attack by roaring and slashing with claws sharp enough to cut through minerals. One of them lunges at Paul, but he dodges just in time. This is his first real fight against a monster, and he decides to try taking it down without using a skill. Thanks to his boosted stats, Paul is much more agile, and his jumping power has improved too. The hero laughs at the monster, saying he is so slow that our character can see his attack from a mile away, just as the beast stabs him with a claw. Paul's bleeding. He got too cocky. No matter how much he trained at the academy, real monsters are different. Even if it's a low-level monster, he can't underestimate it. Slowly, he recovers with the help of a regeneration skill. Now it's time to fight back. He uses the blade of pure white, slashing in a cross shape. Then he follows up with a tiger pounce, throwing the monster and dealing multi-stage damage. Paul lands a solid hit to the creature's stomach, sending it flying. A few final strikes, and he takes down the ancient tabby monster. His score, A. Now it's time to choose his rewards. Stat points and skill points are the foundation of an A-class strength. He's in no rush to level up his skills, so he picks extra stat points. A solid weapon would also come in handy for the next trials. Paul chooses stat points and random equipment. His reward is a basic one-handed sword. Time to leave the trial grounds. On his way back to his room, he receives a message from Cindy, asking him to come to the hospital. She saw the news about a student triggering the descent of a sacred angel during their class awakening. It's the first hidden class to appear in the city in 50 years. But just then, a nurse enters Cindy's room and switches off the TV. With a sneer, the nurse tells Cindy it's time for her to pay her medical fees, $10,000. She doesn't understand why it's so expensive now, as it used to be $5,000. She asks if there's been a mistake. Paul barely makes $5,000 working 3 jobs a month. The nurse snaps that Cindy has used a lot of medicine this month, including suppressants and stabilizers, and they even had to call in a priest. Outraged by Cindy's questioning, the nurse scolds her, saying a young lady shouldn't speak so disrespectfully. She offers to let Cindy check the bill herself. With a cruel smile, she says that poor people should just accept their fate instead of fighting it. But suddenly a man interrupts her. Apparently he overheard her insulting patients. With her sharp tongue, he wonders if the nurse will keep talking like that in the director's office. The nurse huffs and leaves the room, warning that Cindy's medical fees must be paid today. Cindy is nervous, asking who this man is. John Wilson shows his ID and tells her he's a friend of her big brother. Paul rushes into his sister's ward, telling her he just paid the bills. The hospital system now shows they have 10,000 yuan in their account. He's surprised as he walks in and sees 2 men already in Cindy's room. John introduces himself as the mayor's secretary and says he'd like to discuss a few things with Paul. The mayor's the most powerful person in the city, and his secretary can sometimes represent him directly. Paul can't imagine why someone so important is looking for him. They shake hands, and Paul suggests they talk somewhere else, since Cindy's hospital room isn't the best place for a conversation. John tells his colleague to stay with Miss White while he and Paul step out for a moment. At the cafe, everyone's buzzing about the hidden class that showed up at the Second Academy. People are even gossiping that Paul White is pretty good looking. John and Paul sit down at a table. John congratulates him on his awakening, but Paul brushes it off, saying he just got lucky. John disagrees. Getting an S-grade talent isn't just luck. The mayor is interested in Paul. He's even set aside cultivation resources for him to use for the upcoming exam and gives Paul the only key to the bank vault holding them. Looks like the mayor sees potential in Paul and figures it's worth investing in him, but he probably hopes Paul will repay the favor someday. John also informs him that a professional medical team will be available to care for Cindy around the clock from now on. On top of that, the mayor has arranged for a level 36 second-grade priest to come and treat her. Paul knows he has no choice but to accept this. The hero tells Cindy everything. She's thrilled, joking that maybe she can cling to him like a good luck charm now that he's on the rise. Paul tells her to stop being silly and focus on her recovery. Cindy, curious about his new class, asks about his exclusive skills. Since awakening as a Saint Knight, Paul has 3 exclusive skills: Blade of Pure White for attack, Slow Recovery for healing, and Weapon Blessing for support. Slow Recovery can recover life points, so the hero decides to try it on his sister. Cindy sighs, saying it's so comforting, like being in a hot spring or getting a full-body massage. She exclaims that the pain is gone, and even her hands feel warm again. She cheers, calling him amazing. Besides strength, one big reason Paul chose the Saint Knight class was because of Cindy's illness, since the class has support abilities that can ease her pain. The next day, Paul goes to the academy. A few dozen universities called the headmaster Mr. Clark to recruit the hero. Even 4 teachers from the top 10 universities showed up. All of these teachers are holders of secondary awakened classes at level 35 or above. If Paul joins them, he'll get top-notch training. Paul's surprised the top 3 universities aren't among them. Mr. Clark explains that the top 3 only recruit based on exam results. They don't care about talent or class, nor do they have special admissions. As they approach the classroom, the teachers are deep in a debate over who has the best offer. The headmaster opens the door and announces that Paul White is here. Mr. Clark introduces them. First is Mr. Stephen Adams from Rongyang University, followed by Mr. Stuart Lewis from Chuan Nan University. Also present are Miss Catherine Evans and Mr. Elijah Bell, representing Hancheng and NG universities. Paul bows as he greets them, and the teachers notice he doesn't carry any arrogance despite his hidden class. He seems humble and steady, a good kid. Mr. Adams cuts to the chase, explaining Rongyang University's offer. If Paul chooses them, they'll give him 2 million yuan and 3 Saint Knight exclusive skill books. Paul is stunned. Most families only make about 6,000 yuan a month. And Saint Knight exclusive skill books? Ordinary people never even get to see them. Not even the mayor gave him resources on this level. Mr. Lewis speaks up, saying Chuanan University is offering 3 million yuan upfront 3 skill books per year and training with a level 56 tertiary awakened knight. A level 56 knight, that's almost top tier. Becoming their student would open up huge opportunities. But then Miss Evans says everyone else isn't being sincere enough. Hancheng University doesn't have a huge admission fund. They're offering just 2 million yuan. But if Paul joins them, she'll give him a B-class cultivation resource immediately. Mr. Clark is practically salivating at the offer. B-class cultivation resources are priceless treasures. Catherine asks what Paul thinks. He apologizes, saying he's decided to decline special admission. Everyone, including Mr. Clark, is shocked. Paul explains that he wants to aim for the top 3 universities. Among the top 10, the top 3 are Sukong, Qingjing, and Modu. These 3 are the most prestigious universities. They only accept about 1,000 students each year, and it's not limited to humans. Elves, giants, and other races can apply too. Other races are naturally stronger than humans, and with all the elites in the country, getting into these universities is as hard as scaling a mountain. Mr. Adams laughs, saying he thought Paul was a good kid, but now he sees he's just an ignorant brat. Stefan read his profile. Paul lost too much in his first 18 years and lacked the resources to fill them up. Mr. Adams says the hero's weak and has low stats. A powerful aura radiates from Mr. Adams. Anyone else in Paul's place would have knelt instantly. The man says it's not only tough for Paul to get into the top 3 universities, but even if he does make it, he'll be at the bottom. And without focused training, that's all he'll ever be. Mr. Clark steps in, telling Mr. Adams not to bully his student. Miss Evans notices that Paul can withstand Mr. Adams' aura for more than a few breaths. She admits this kid really is extraordinary. Mr. Adams sneers, saying that a student's attitude is just as important as potential. With Paul's attitude, he'll never amount to anything. The other teachers also decide to leave since Paul has such high ambitions. Mr. Clark tries to stop them, but Paul doesn't mind. Catherine tells him he's brave, but the other teachers have a point too. She warns him that there are countless elites out there and other races are naturally stronger than humans. Getting into the top 3 universities is almost impossible. But Paul's confident he'll prove his strength in the upcoming exams. There's 1 month left, so he's determined to use his system to raise his strength to an insane level. He's set on making it into the top 3. Catherine hasn't seen eyes this determined in a long time. It takes her back to her days on the front lines. As she leaves, she tells him she'll be looking forward to his results. A month flies by. Exam day is here, and all the students gather at the stadium. Their examiner is the notorious Yang, so they're nervous. Students are whispering about Paul, who turned down special admission for a shot at the top 3. They think he's too arrogant and predict he'll end up with nothing. Suddenly, Paul steps into the crowd and everyone goes silent. He's different now. The hero feels powerful. The opening map is set deep in a dark forest. The cat monsters there are incredibly agile, while the minotaurs have thick, tough skin. The maximum number of allowed party members reflects the map's difficulty. In past exams, it was usually 3, but this time it's 5. Mr. Yang instructs everyone to act within their abilities. If they encounter any life-threatening danger in the secret realm, they must immediately use a return scroll. Dying in the map means dying in real life. Time's up and the students are ready to enter the map. As expected from elite classes like the first one, everyone but 2 parties goes in solo. Paul's solo too, but he's from the 5th class. Going solo means you get all the experience and a higher score on the exam, but the risk of death also increases. Only elite seniors usually dare to try that. Other students in the stadium are watching Paul. They're stunned to learn he's attempting the nightmare difficulty level on his own. Sean Wesley, the director of education, shouts that a Saint Knight has extraordinary support skills, so Paul would be an ace in any party. Mr. Wesley demands to know why Paul went solo and chose the nightmare difficulty with a 40% death rate. The director tells Mr. Clark that the city council has invested heavily in Paul this month to help him achieve good results. If Paul dies in the map, the city government's reputation will take a serious hit. Mr. Wesley says Paul's decision to go solo is like ignoring the government's support. The headmaster assures him not to worry, saying Paul must have a hidden advantage. Meanwhile, Paul pulls out a single-bladed axe. A monster approaches at that moment, perfect timing. So Paul swings the axe, instantly killing the beast. His stats increase. In just a month, Paul has reached level 10, but his average stats have skyrocketed to an impressive 47, matching a level 13. Other monsters lurk in the bushes. Paul approaches them since they're not attacking. He uses Weapon Blessing, which boosts his attack power and accuracy. Under the effect of his S+ grade talent, Protection of the Sacred Angel, the Saint Knight's exclusive skill, Weapon Blessing, is enhanced as well. Other students must envy him for such a powerful buff. The university exam limits weapons to 3-star bronze, but with his buff, Paul's axe has the impact of a 5-star bronze weapon. His stats set him far ahead of everyone else in the exam. A few monsters sneak up behind him, but it's no trouble for him. The students murmur that Paul's timing is flawless. He used Blade of Pure White at the exact moment he was attacked. Paul's leveled up Blade of Pure White to level 5, giving it a radiant light and powerful elemental damage. With the Sacred Angel's buff, he can instantly kill any low-level monster. The students are in awe. That single-bladed axe is heavy, but Paul wields it like it's a toy. The first-class teacher interrupts, remarking that Paul's speed is even faster than the cat monsters. Not only his speed, but Paul's magic is quick and powerful too. His intelligence stat must be high. His attack angles, control, strength. It's as if Paul's a combat prodigy. The first-class teacher wonders how a talent like this ended up in Class 5. Mr. Wesley comments that while Paul has a strong combat mindset, his tactics are unwise. He's already wasted too much stamina on the first wave of cat monsters. Nightmare difficulty has not only powerful monsters, but a large number of them. Even top-tier mages struggle due to magic energy consumption. The weight of the axe is a significant drawback. Swinging it once or twice is fine, but hundreds of swings? Mr. Wesley predicts Paul won't even have the strength to hold the axe soon and will end up getting shredded by the cat monsters. The next wave is here already. The cat monsters aren't giving Paul a moment to breathe. This is brutal. There are at least 100 cat monsters. The onlookers wonder if Paul can pull it off this time. But with just one swing, he clears out most of them. Finally, he lands the last hit on the final cat monster. The entrance to the next level opens. Paul advances to the next stage, where even more monsters await him. One guy is live streaming for his followers, talking about Paul White, the most popular top student at the second academy. He shows how our hero cleared the first wave of the Nightmare map with insane efficiency, in just 3 minutes and 17 seconds. That's 29 seconds faster than last year's top scorer. Paul kept swinging and slashing, and afterward he was barely even winded. A girl named Nancy remembers how Director Wesley said it was unwise to waste stamina on the first wave, but it seems not everyone's buying that. The fifth-class teacher tells Nancy that Mr. Wesley wouldn't lie to them, though he can't help but smile with pride for Paul. The hero entered the next stage. The monsters now are minotaurs, plus 3 types of cat monsters. There are warrior-type cat monsters, light cat monsters acting as healers, dark cat monsters as mages, and the silver-grade minotaur that deals massive damage. Warrior, healer, and mage. A classic setup. If the first stage was just scattered bandits, the second is a squad of trained soldiers. The risk of death is way up. Suddenly, Paul gets cursed by a cat monster. Everyone is shocked, saying he's in real danger. Warriors are charging, mages casting buffs, and healers working their magic. The hero admits these monsters actually have decent teamwork. But Paul knows exactly what to do. He activates the Cross of Sacred Light. With this move, he scorches every monster around him. The skill summons Sacred Light to form a cross behind him, dealing continuous light element fire damage. Mr. Wesley shouts that it's a grade 8 AoE skill. Skills, like talents, are ranked in 7 grades. The higher the grade, the stronger the effect, and the harder it is to obtain. The director knows that the resources the government gave Paul could only get him a grade C skill at best, so it's a mystery how he's using a grade B skill. Now the only monster left is the Minotaur, which has entered Berserk mode. Its special move is War Stomp. Plus, with its superior body effect, nothing can stop the Minotaur's charge. But Paul counters with air slash, blocking its advance. Then he finishes with a strike from the Blade of Pure Light. The Minotaur collapses, but Paul notices it's still breathing, so he slams it in the face with his foot. The door opens. The next stage must be the boss room. Everyone's thrilled, stunned that Paul took down a 4-meter-tall Berserk Minotaur with one blow. The second stage only took him 59 seconds. Mr. Wesley's impressed, saying Paul has perfect timing for his skills and an absolute control towards his strength. The director congratulates Mr. Clark, saying the second academy will finally produce a renowned student. It's time for their academy to have an elite. Since the school's founding, the second academy's top performer has only reached 721st place in the district rankings. Paul might take them to new heights. Suddenly, a student asks why Senior Paul didn't rest before entering the boss room. Mr. Wesley is outraged, saying that if Paul loses his advantage because he didn't recover properly, it'll be a huge setback. Sukang District is a densely populated, talent-rich area, and anyone aiming for the top 100 attempts the nightmare difficulty solo. Under the same difficulty, to be the top performer, you have to finish in the shortest time possible. Paul finally faces the Minotaur King. The boss finds it ridiculous that a human dares to set foot in his palace. But then all of Paul's buffs activate. Blessing of Dawn, Gift of Courage, Gift of Protection, triggering the Saint Knight's initial form. Now it's the Minotaur King who should fear for his life. But even with 4 buffs, his axe can't pierce the monster's flesh. The Minotaur King slams Paul with a hammer, sending him flying. Luckily, the Saint Knight armor protects him. Without it, his bones would be shattered. Good thing the hero knows what to do after that exchange. He didn't take the hit for nothing. Now he'll use the Spear of Victory. Countless spears made of condensed divine light rain down on the enemy. But the Minotaur King blocks every attack. This monster's strong. It's above Paul in strength and resilience. So overpowering it isn't an option. Most people would try to wear it down over time, but that would cost him any chance at first place. Examiners rarely set up dead ends, so there must be another way. Paul noticed that the Minotaur King's agility was lower than his during their clash. Attacking it rapidly from multiple angles will put it in a tough spot. The system alerts him that his mana is low. Besides agility, the Minotaur King has another weakness, its resistance. It has high endurance and health, but it's also more vulnerable to high damage and negative effects when attacked. Paul needs to unleash multiple powerful skills in a short time. This is his chance, but he has to time every skill release precisely. Otherwise, he'll fail the exam by running out of mana before defeating the monster. Paul didn't want to make a big move, but he has no choice. There's no time, so he draws his sword and slashes the Minotaur King. The system congratulates him on completing the Nightmare Difficulty dungeon. His college entrance exam is officially complete. Paul's performance is graded SSS, earning him first place for clearing the map. He's thrilled. He'll be Sukang District's top student. In the year he transmigrated over, his mother passed away, his sister got sick, debts piled up, and Cindy's medical bills loomed over him. But even under such harsh conditions, he didn't choose to give up. When he couldn't increase his stats, he practiced combat skills and strengthened his fighting spirit. The system gave him a second chance, but he knows his fate is still in his hands. Paul has to work harder than anyone and sees that chance. His heart stays steady, unshakable. Now it's time to head back. As a reward, Paul receives the Forest Belt, which boosts his stats and grants buffs while fighting in the forest. Along with the belt, he gets the Forest Ring with similar effects. Paul returns to the stadium. The crowd cheers for him, calling him their hero. Someone approaches him. Mr. Wesley and Mr. Clark congratulate him, saying that solo-clearing nightmare difficulty in under 10 minutes is an unprecedented honor for the Academy. From the director's years of exam research, he believes Paul has what it takes to reach first place in the district. Suddenly, a car speeds into the venue. It's a magical vehicle that can fly, a rare and expensive item. It turns out to be the director's car. He says exam results will be released in 3 days and promises to inform Paul right away. After their last conversation, John Wilson quickly fulfilled his promise. Cindy was moved to a deluxe suite in the hospital with a professional team monitoring her. Paul heads to the hospital to visit his sister and share some good news. But as he and a nurse get in the elevator, the air suddenly turns freezing. When they reach the 26th floor, they find ice spreading everywhere. Everything is frozen, walls, floors, even people. Paul immediately rushes to his sister. The nurse tries to stop him, but freezes instantly. In Cindy's room, Paul comes face to face with a woman casting magic on her. The hero prepares to strike, but the woman stops him. Moving her, he recognizes Sister Leah. Leah warns him that if they attack recklessly, it could shatter Cindy's heart. Also, Paul asks why a dragon is here. Leah explains that Cindy's cold-based illness flared up, freezing everyone around her into ice. Right now, the best she can do is keep the cold contained to this floor, so she urges Paul to leave quickly. The hero is deeply worried about his sister. Leah tells him that without a high-level priest, this is all she can manage. So Paul asks the system to use all his skill points to upgrade his slow recovery ability. His skill transforms into slow regeneration, and he activates it immediately. Leah is astonished by the power of the Saint Knight's healing skill. It surpasses even the effects a level 23 priest like her could achieve. Paul tells her that he'll handle things here, but she should go inform Secretary John and ask him to summon a high-level priest as soon as possible. Leah hesitates, saying the priest's schedule is packed. John's appointment with her isn't until next week. Even if they call her now, she won't make it in time. Paul insists, telling Leah to just tell John everything. If he can get a high-level priest here, the hero promises to do one thing for him, no questions asked. In the future, Leah leaves right away. This burst of cold isn't new. Cindy has suffered from it every night for the past year. Under the influence of the cold aura, she would suffer intense pain across her body. Paul knew that the cold was getting more severe recently, but he didn't realize it had become severe enough to affect others. The cold is biting into Paul now, too. Then, suddenly, a green light fills the room, cutting through the dragon's icy presence. The light wraps around Cindy, Paul shouts, telling it not to touch her, but he's immediately thrown back. A woman steps forward, commanding the dragon to back down. It seems everything is under control now, and Cindy is safe. The woman recognizes Paul and tells him she's heard about him. Her name is Riley Davis, a level 35 secondary awakened priest from the city. John specifically asked her to treat Cindy ahead of schedule. If John hadn't mentioned that Paul might take the top spot in his class, she wouldn't have bent the rules. She's impressed with how long Paul has withstood the cold. The hero anxiously asks if his sister's condition is curable. Riley explains that the leakage of cold energy and its solidification into form is a sign of bloodline awakening. When the Eternal Game first appeared, many players chose characters from other races, elves, giants, demons, and so on. When the game merged with reality, those players inherited the traits of these bloodlines. For instance, those with elven blood have greener eyes and longer ears. Over the past 200 years, descendants of those players who married humans gradually lost those traits and powers as their bloodlines diluted. Except for one rare condition, bloodline awakening. Riley says this can bring great fortune or grave misfortune. A successful awakening lets the person control another race's power. But failure results in paralysis or death. Cindy's suffering is due to her body's struggle to handle the power of this bloodline. If Riley is correct, Cindy has awakened a rare freezing bloodline. She needs a change in her constitution to carry such a unique power. As far as Riley knows, only a treasure as the freezing lotus can change a human's constitution. But this thing is extremely rare, the last time it appeared at an auction 30 years ago. Another option is to use a powerful sealing skill to contain the bloodline. However, this would mean Cindy could never level up again. Riley advises Paul to contact her once he makes a decision. 5 days later, the hero completes a daily mission and chooses stat points as his reward. He chooses it most of the time. He usually goes for constitution and intelligence, essential for a Saint Knight, but he can't ignore the other stats either. He follows the 2-3-3-2 method, distributing points across 4 stats. Suddenly, the results of an exam are announced. Paul has earned first place. As rewards, he receives various divine skills and items. News across the country buzzes about Paul's awakening ceremony, which triggered a divine phenomenon, a clear sign marking him as number 1. Director Wesley tells reporters he always knew Paul would succeed, which is why he advised the government to increase their investment in him. People everywhere are gossiping. They're stunned as a Saint Knight is a support class, and it usually takes ages to clear a realm solo. Some speculate that Paul must have cheated. A level 10 solo clearing a nightmare realm seems impossible. But there are recordings from the exam. It feels like Paul's Holy Cross is stronger than high-tier fire magic. Besides that, people have lost count of how many buffs he has. A red-haired guy, the previous champion, watches Paul's performance intently. He mutters that Paul might be interesting, but daring to take his honor is courting death. Walking down the street, the hero receives a message. The city government has just transferred money into his account. He immediately calls Secretary John. The man explains that after Paul's brilliant exam performance, the government is rewarding him with $5 million in cash and a luxurious mansion. Seems like they've acknowledged his top ranking, too. Paul lets John choose the location for the mansion. John mentions hearing that recruitment teachers from the top 3 universities are on their way and asks if Paul needs a ride. But it turns out they're already here. A recruitment teacher from Rongyang University approaches Paul, while another steps down from a helicopter, remarking that he remembers Rongyang calling Paul too arrogant. The Rongyang teacher responds that Mr. Adams couldn't see the truth and has been fired. If Paul joins Rongyang, he'll receive $4 million. The teacher from the helicopter declares that Modu University will double whatever Rongyang offers Paul. A woman strides up, declaring she'll be the one taking Paul. As she leads him away, she mentions that Qingjing University has nothing but cultivation resources. And for 4 years, Paul will receive grade A resources annually. But before they can discuss further, they slam into a barrier. Another woman appears, saying Sukong University can match Qingjing's offer and demands that Paul be put down. Meanwhile, the Modu teacher adds that their university will provide a full set of golden grade equipment every year, too. The Qingjing teacher insists she wasn't kidnapping, she was merely trying to have a private chat with Mr. Paul White. She asks him to make his choice. Grace Bennett, the Sukang recruiter, announces that Paul can even get grade S resources at Sukang, which has held first place in the last 4 contests. The Qingjing teacher snaps, accusing Grace of getting arrogant over a few competition wins. The offers from all 3 universities are tempting, and any of them could lead Paul to a bright future. If he wants to grow even stronger, Sukang is clearly the best match, so he decides to go with them. Grace beams and presents Sukang's special recruitment contract, encouraging him to sign if he's ready. The other teachers remind Paul he's welcome to visit their universities anytime if he ever wants a change from Sukong. Curious, Paul asks Grace about her level. She's a level 42, second awakening mage, though she doesn't look 30. Grace says he'll meet plenty of other young powerhouses soon. Since receiving his system, Paul knows he has no rivals his age. Once at Sukang, he'll surely find worthy opponents and grow stronger fast. Grace can sense his fierce fighting spirit. Finally, the contract is signed. She tells him to take a week to pack. After that, she'll take him to the university. Paul's surprised that Sukang's semester starts so early. Grace explains that special recruits receive high-level training right away, which speeds up their growth. Secretary John takes Paul and Cindy to see their new mansion. This is the government-gifted mansion. It has 3 floors, complete with a training room, leisure area, and a big balcony. Mr. Wilson says he won't intrude further, but Paul has a request. Cindy is still recovering. Her body remains weak. Although Sister Leah will stay with her, Paul asks John to watch over Cindy for a while. Paul says goodbye to Cindy, reminding her to call if she needs anything and to take the priestess's pills every week. John will arrange for Cindy to start school in a few days. Cindy playfully covers her ears, mocking him. Paul hops into Grace's car. It's his first time traveling a long distance. She warns him to hold on. In a split second, they're zooming at astronomical speed, teleporting. Moments later, they arrive at the university along with other cars. Paul remarks that there was no rush, so was teleportation magic really necessary? Major universities are usually under military jurisdiction. Priestess Riley must have requested permission from the city government to use a miniature teleportation array. Grace explains that Sukong works closely with the military, so they've built a large teleportation array nearby. It's safe and convenient. And here they are. The university is vast, surrounded by mountains with breathtaking scenery. As Grace leads Paul to check in, he suddenly notices a guy being tossed aside. The culprit is a white-haired girl, Evelyn, who tells the guy she doesn't want to talk to him. Her kick serves as a warning. If he bothers her again, she won't go easy on him. This time, young Master Jacob has crossed the wrong person. He has a reputation for hitting on new students every semester, but now he's finally met his match. Paul observes magical patterns on Evelyn, realizing she has a demonic bloodline. Grace explains that many students and teachers in University City possess different bloodlines, advising Paul not to be too surprised when he encounters them. Paul responds that as long as they stand with humanity, he has no reason to treat them as enemies. He won't blame the entire demon race for his father's death. Grace hands him his student ID. The ID contains details like his rank and score. Grace begins to explain the school's structure. Each year has its own ranking system. The stronger the student, the higher their rank. Paul is currently ranked number 001, the top position, but this is only temporary. In a month, there will be a freshman competition to rearrange ranks based on performance. Starting today, Paul will be everyone's target. Everyone will aim for his spot, but Paul, already in first place, has no intention of giving it up. Grace then explains the score system. Freshmen receive scores based on their rank, which can be used to purchase food, equipment, potions, skill books, and more. With enough scores, Paul can acquire anything he desires, including S-class skills and resources. There are two other ways to earn scores besides rank. The first method is through score missions, which Paul can access by logging into the mission board with his ID card. Completing these missions rewards students with scores. The second method is through the Heaven and Earth rankings, where students receive a set number of scores based on their position. With 5,000 students at Sukang, many compete fiercely to make it into these rankings. Paul knows he can't afford to be complacent. Additionally, the university has 3 realms. The first is the Goblin Dungeon, with entry levels ranging from 17 to 21. The second is the Distorted Forest, requiring entry levels of 23 to 26. The third is Purgatory, with entry levels of 28 to 31. Apart from level requirements, Paul will need to spend scores to enter these realms. He can also use the training room to level up, either by battling robots or sparring with real opponents. At Sukang, strength determines authority, granting access to the best resources. Paul likes this system. As he and Grace pass a group of students, he notices their curious stares. They're wondering about this new student, especially since a teacher is personally guiding him. Most of them were shown around in groups of 10 by seniors. One student, Mike, explains that special recruits are assigned specific teachers to help them acclimate faster and encourage them to join certain houses. The group quickly realizes this must be this term's first-place student. They ask Sukang's informant for more information. Soon they learn it's Paul White, Sukang's top student and a level 13 Saint Knight. The news shocks them, including the white-haired girl. They find it hard to believe that a Saint Knight, a support class, could outperform rank 002 Jeremy Morgan, a level 14 berserker. Mike questions why they doubt the informant if his title is to be trusted. The white-haired girl seems impressed. Suddenly, a student steps forward, claiming Paul's first-place rank is fake. He introduces himself as Sean Hughes, a level 13 punishment knight ranked 038. Sean suspects that Paul doesn't have enough strength to be appraised as 001 and now is challenging him. Another student tries to intervene, pointing out that duels are personal matters and not worth everyone's attention. Sean shoves the senior aside, insisting he's serious. Ranking 001 is determined by the headmaster and 5 house teachers. It can't be a mistake. The crowd whispers that Sean is using Paul's rank as a stepping stone, which they find understandable since the Saint Knight class isn't known for its strength. Paul, with a faint smile, asks why he should accept Sean's challenge. Sean offers 100 points if Paul wins, adding that Paul risks nothing by accepting. Paul realizes that accepting could set a precedent, but to make a real impression, he'll need to be decisive. To ensure they remember him, Paul raises the stakes. He'll fight Sean for 300 points. Sean suddenly hesitates. The wager is substantial. 300 points is a significant portion of Sean's total. Paul declares he'll walk away if Sean doesn't have the courage to accept. At the last moment, Sean agrees and suggests heading to the ring. Paul smirks, stating there's no need for a ring. If Sean doesn't fall to his knees within 3 moves, Paul will consider it his loss. The battle is about to begin. Grace counts down from 3, signaling the boys to start. Lethal moves are strictly forbidden. The fight begins. The Punishment Knight and Saint Knight, both hidden classes branching from the Knight class, are pitted against each other. The Punishment Knight specializes in dealing damage, while the Saint Knight excels in support. Sean feels confident, believing he can win by striking swiftly before Paul is fully buffed. He hopes to impress Evelyn watching the match. Determined to secure victory, Sean unleashes a blood slash, only to miss his target. Paul, much faster, counters with a powerful kick that sends Sean flying. Sean drops to his knees, bleeding profusely. The fight is over in a shockingly disappointing fashion. Paul expected Sean to have some tricks up his sleeve, but concludes that Sean can't even withstand a single blow. A senior approaches teacher Grace, reporting that Sean has 5 broken ribs and internal bleeding before collapsing unconscious. Grace orders him to get a priest for healing. Grace announces that 300 points have been credited to Paul's student card. The students are awestruck, realizing the hero blocked both the Punishment Knight's charge and a blood slash. This must be the legendary power of 001. Evelyn speculates that Paul has at least a 20-point strength advantage over Sean. She approaches Paul and asks if he'll spar with her. Paul realizes he hadn't noticed before that the girl not only carries other bloodlines, but also wields legacy equipment. This is Paul's first encounter with such gear, and he's eager to test its capabilities. He decides to fight using the Mystic Light Warhammer, channeling all his light elemental abilities. Even as freshmen, fights are breaking out on the first day. Joseph Green, a level 29 spearman and captain of the Aurora Club, arrives on the scene. The battle begins with Evelyn initiating a Shadow Slash, charging at our hero with incredible speed. Paul counters with Typhoon Smash, raising his hammer and delivering a powerful swing that knocks the girl back. Both fighters display remarkable strength, proving they are evenly matched. Recognizing Paul's monstrous power, the girl switches to Demonic Slash, coating her weapon in dark elemental mana. Paul is exhilarated to face someone who can challenge him head-on. He launches an uppercut while Evelyn counters with Enhanced Rapid Stab. Their moves escalate to Paul's Shockwave Slash, clashing against the girl's Mountain Crushing Strike. The hero releases a shockwave that lands multiple hits, forcing the girl back. Watching the fight, Joseph marvels that this could be a battle between 2 students. He predicts the spiritual swordsman will lose without a trump card. Yet to a senior observer, the two seem evenly matched. Initially, the girl blocked only 1 swing out of 3, but now she deflects 1 out of every 2. Heavy weapon users usually defend and retreat to conserve energy, but Paul shows no sign of holding back. The Warhammer keeps the swordsman on the defensive, restricting her movements throughout the fight. Paul, the fierce Saint Knight, fights at full strength against the skilled swordswoman. As he finishes warming up, he activates all his angel buffs. Evelyn is overwhelmed by the intense pressure, realizing this is Paul's true power. As Paul executes Spear of Victory, the girl narrowly dodges with Phantom Slash, swiftly repositioning to strike. The hero anticipates her move, staying 2 steps ahead and attacking from another angle. He pauses and asks if she wants to continue. Evelyn declines, admitting the outcome won't change against such relentless aggression. However, she reveals she held back her full swordsman skills and dark elemental powers. Paul acknowledges her restraint, impressing her with his sharp observation. It was, after all, only a sparring match, and she hadn't used her trump card. She also notes that Paul wasn't fighting at full strength. She had seen his exam video. She asks him to add her and suggests they spar again in the future. Paul gives Evelyn his number to Grace and says they can head out. Not only did the hero earn 600 points on his first day at school, but he's already making other recruits wary of him. Grace explains that the freshman dormitory is on the small mountain, while the regular students' dorms are at the mountain's base and along the mountainside. The special recruits' dormitory, however, is at the mountain's peak. Not only that, but their dorms are actually independent mansions with luxury and equipment that vary by rank. Grace leads Paul to where he'll be living from now on. As they enter, she mentions that she heard he's looking for a freezing lotus. A party once saw a freezing lotus in the Tempest Mountain range, but they gave up on collecting it because high-level monsters guarded it. That info is from 6 years ago, so Grace warns it may not be accurate. Paul begins his research. The Tempest Mountain range rose up after Earth merged with the Eternal Game World. It's vast, filled with treasures, exotic plants, and creatures. Even tertiary awakened classes don't venture there lightly. With Paul's current strength, he'd have to run if he encounters a high-level monster. But the system rewarded him with a life-saving item after the exam, which is resurrection after death. There's no reason to hesitate. The hero will head out as soon as he buys some skills and equipment. Luckily, Saint Knight skills below Grade A are free for rank 001. Since it's all free, Paul picks Immunity to Physical Damage, a skill that doesn't need a weapon, so it seems reliable. He also chooses a long-range attack skill. The hero's excited, but he still has to spend points to collect the forest set he was rewarded with after the exam. Paul immediately heads to the Tempest mountain range, but spots a massive explosion. He puts on the forest set equipment he bought with his points. Meanwhile, he chats with Evelyn. She suggests they go to the gym together tomorrow, but he mentions he's at the range. The girl gets anxious and calls her friend. Evelyn tells her friend she met a guy and he's something special. Her friend, casually doing her nails, asks what's so special about him. Evelyn says she challenged him yesterday and even used some of her charm ability during the fight, but he was totally unfazed. Not a hint that he was falling for her tricks. The friend guesses his willpower must be incredibly strong. That's it, Evelyn decides. She's heading to the Tempest mountain range too. A team is already there fighting the monsters. Mechanic Luna is hurling bombs at them, but even that can't take down such powerful monsters. Another teammate, Christy, summons an ice spirit. Gunner Sophia fires at the monsters with her powerful magic gun. It's the perfect moment for swordswoman Sarah to rush in and slash the monsters down. The team shouts that they did it, but just as they start to drive away, their car blows up. Luna's exhausted, struggling with her injuries as her team shouts for her to be careful. Now they're surrounded by giant demons. They've used up all their trump cards and have only managed to kill 4 monsters. They start to wonder if this is really the end for them. Paul races over on his new companion.